He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
No mai whakaronga mai ki te Aotai Whenua. Welcome to Country Life. Ko Janina Schwaneka, aho.
G'day, great to have your company. I'm Duncan Smith. Today, we meet a South Auckland artist who gets a taste of high country farming.
And later, I introduce you to a sheep and beef farming couple in Whanganui, where the seed of a new idea has taken root.
But now, it's that time of the month where we give farmers and growers around the motu a call to hear what's been happening on the ground. And what a wild end to the week it's been. Farmers in Northland, Te Tai Tokerau, have had plenty of rain. Our farmer near Whangarei reckons he had close to 600 millimetres. For some, it's been too much, with another farmer friend of his having paddocks flooded 3 times in the past 2 weeks. Those in Dargaville, though, are only reporting 200 to 250 millimetres. It's been enough to get the grass roaring out of the ground, though, and farmers are rapt. Most have a smile ear to ear. Many dairy farmers finished the season early. Winter milkers are happier now there's more feed again. It's hard to get a vet at the moment as many are busy with pregnancy scanning. The wet has continued in Pukekohe, where one grower has tipped out 200 millimetres from the rain gauge over the month. Heavy bursts of rain have messed up some fields of recently sown early onions. He expects less onions will be sown this year because of weak demand from exporters and plenty of good onions still in storage. More brassicas are being grown to supplement income. Sadly, there are reports one long-standing family grower is about to withdraw from the industry.
Good rain has also seen conditions improve in Waikato. A farm consultant tells us there's been fantastic pasture growth, almost double what's required. A good thing too, with drought-stricken farmers having to fork out big amounts for maize silage, baleage and PKE, or palm kernel expeller. A good payout has helped, though the rain has come too late for some dairy farmers who dried off their herds early. With abundant growth, it's important to watch out for nitrate poisoning. Pregnancy scanning has been variable, with 12 to 13% not in calf. The kiwi fruit harvest in Bay of Plenty has also been disrupted by all this rain, as you can't pick when it's wet. This has been frustrating, but the harvest was off to such a good start, things are still on track for most. Wind damage means slightly more fruit is being rejected. The red varieties are all in, there's still a bit of gold being picked, and the green harvest is well underway. Growers are happy with crop volumes, and the mood is buoyant.
The drought has officially broken in Taranaki, and it's a big relief, we're told. Just yesterday, our contact recorded 85 millimetres of rain, which has helped top up soil moisture levels and the water table. Farmers will still be wanting a bit more, though. With good soil temperatures, grass growth should continue next month. The good dairy payout has allowed farmers to buy in feed and keep cows in good condition. Pregnancy scanning is mostly done, up to 14% are not in calf. Cull cows and empties have gone to the works, heifers are coming home, and the weaners are heading out for grazing this week. Conditions have also been favourable for pasture growth in the east coast, Te Tai Rāwhiti. Most have had a steady top-up of about 25 millimetres each week, with good soil temperatures too. Farmers are stoked about feed heading into winter and feeling in a good place. With so many sheep and beef farms, the region is benefiting from good market prices, though there's still some uncertainty about market predictability. Afforestation of farmland is still an issue, with several recently sold stations soon to be planted in pines. This season's persimmons have started hitting the shelves. It's a short harvest, so good to get in now.
Warm weather and rain has been good for growing grass in Hawke's Bay, though parts of the region have been getting dry, and feed levels are variable. One farmer was confident of a good bank of feed heading into winter, and says destocking is not an issue given the good prices at the moment. It's been tough to make a dollar for arable farmers though, competing with overseas products like maize being imported. The last of the squash crops are coming off, and the apple harvest has been good. The quality of this year's wine harvest has also been great, though many growers have left grapes on the vine due to decreased demand for wine. In Manawatu, Rangatike, our consultant contact's been in shorts for most of the week and even got a bit of a sunburn, which is unusual for this time of year. The fine weather means tractor work's getting done and new grass is being sown. Rams are coming back in and the last of the crops are being regrassed. Things are looking pretty good and the mood is positive. Farmers are catching up on maintenance and spending on fertiliser or new gear.
Wairarapa farmers have been having a good autumn, with reasonable feed levels and steady rainfall. Sheep and beef farmers are reporting good results from mating. With better weather and stronger markets, our farmer says there's not much to complain about. However, the wild winds have left a bit of a mess to clean up this weekend, although dams and storage tanks got a welcome top-up. Duck shooters are raring to go for the opening weekend. Horo whenua growers have been reasonably busy, with good volumes coming in. The weather's been reasonably kind. Late watermelon's coming off, and zucchini is keeping one grower busy. He says they've already had one frost, though it didn't impact crops. Average prices are still an issue, and below where they need to be for growers.
The Tasman Te Tai o Aorere region missed the worst of this week's storm, but a good dose of rainfall has put kiwi fruit harvesting on hold until the fruit can dry out. Most of the sun gold crop has been picked and packed for shipping, and the green is next. Yields are down a bit on last year, mainly due to hail damage last December. Envy and pink lady apples are being picked, and fruit quality and yields are looking good. A hill country farmer near Blenheim in Marlborough was on top of a hill when we called. It's not often he can see waves crashing onto the rocks, so he reckons there's a big swell out there. Recent rain has turned the land from brown to green. He's shifting ewes who are out with the ram, mobs are on a 3 to 4 day rotation, and a herd of cattle will then clean up whatever tucker's left. Calf weaning's finished, and because prices are so hot, local farmers are selling most of their calves now. Marlborough's never had such a big grape crop, and here too a lot of fruit has been left on the ground. Pruning will start once the leaves have fallen.
Severe winds at a farm in Barrytown on the west coast blew over trees and a post driver machine. The farmer says it was hard to get the cows in for milking as they were hunkering down in a corner of the paddock. Well, on the whole, it's been a great autumn with excellent grass growth. Lime and fertiliser are being applied to paddocks, and culled stock are going to the freezing works. Prices have been excellent, reaching $1,000 an animal. Our contact at Hororata in Canterbury Waitaha has had well over 120 millimetres in the rain gauge since Wednesday, and it isn't really needed. The weather bomb has cooled things down too. There's a fresh skiff of snow on the hills, and frosts are likely to follow. Grass growth has been above average, and milk production is said to be excellent.
A dusting of snow down to the bottom of Mount Ida has signalled the start of winter in central Otago. Our contact in nearby Oturahua says autumn has been magic. He's never seen so much baleage being made in April. Even last weekend, the machines were out compressing and binding lucerne into tasty bales. Ewes have been crutched in preparation for the ram next week, and he's hoping roast duck will be on the menu for Sunday lunch. A dairy farm at Edendale in Southland is relieved the district missed most of this week's storm. They don't need any more moisture in the ground. Aerating the soil to repair paddock damage from the wet spring is finally done, and new grass has been sown. Next week, his cow herd will be body condition scored in preparation for drying off. He was going to clock off early to prepare for the early morning shoot.
This is Country Life on RNZ National 101 FM.
Time for Farming 101 now, where we take a look at some of the jobs and terminology in the primary industries. Winter's coming up, and that means pruning time in the vineyard. How do you prune a grapevine, and why? Here's Jake Dromgoole of the Northland label 144 Islands, in his vineyard not far from Kerikeri.
Like any other vine, they've evolved to grow to the tops of the canopies. Once the fruit starts to ripen and take on sugar, it's to attract the birds so that the birds will come. They'll notice the colour change in the fruit. They'll eat the fruit at the top of the tree canopy and then send it around the rest of the land area so that the plant can procreate. And what we've essentially done as viticulturists is manipulate that for our own benefit. So every year we prune the vines, we keep them in this area here so that we're harvesting fruit in the same physical place every year rather than having to climb further and further up the trellis every year to harvest fruit. Pruning is a job we have to do every year. Essentially, grapevines will only produce fruit from last year's growth. And so every year we have to go through the vineyard, chopping out some of the growth from previous years and then laying down wood from last year, of which the buds will generate new shoots and new bunches of fruit. So I have multiple varieties here in the vineyard, and over the course of a few years I've kind of determined different sort of pruning strategies for every different vine. Across some varieties I'll employ multiple different pruning styles depending on where in the vineyard they are, depending on what sort of rootstock they're on, what clone they're on, what I want to achieve from that vine in terms of volume of fruit. And so we're here at the moment, we're pruning a Chardonnay vine, which I sort of have the fruit wire positioned at around about 1 metre off the ground. The vines are planted 1.5 metres apart, and I like to lay 3 to 4 canes down, hoping that on each of those canes I'll get sort of half a dozen shoots, and on each of those shoots I should get a couple of bunches of fruit. So this particular vine, there's 3 canes in a good position to lay down. So if I got half a dozen shoots off each of them, I should be aiming to get around about 30 bunches of fruit, which should be about 100 to 120 grams per bunch. So that vine there should produce roughly sort of 3 kgs of fruit next year.
Viticulturalist Jake Dromgill of the wine label 144 Islands, pruning in his vineyard not far from Kirikiri.
Now we're heading to Castle Hill Station in Canterbury's high country. The scenic property that runs merinos, Angus cattle and deer is where South Auckland artist and AUT lecturer Raymond Sagapoutele has called home for the past month. Cosmo Kentish Barnes caught up with Raymond to find out more.
In front of us we have my ram friends who have kept me company for the past few weeks. Still haven't quite gotten used to me, but we tried.
And they are in a paddock right in front of the little cottage you're staying in.
Yep. When I first got here, it was an option that was given to me. I could either stay here or in the limestone cottage. I looked at this, and off to the side you can see there's a long drop. That's just for appearances, it's not actually. So I was like, okay, had a look inside, and it's been fully refurbished. It's got the whole place is perfect for what I've been needing as a base for the past few weeks.
And it is one of the original buildings on the farm, I'd say.
I believe so, yeah. Yep. It was originally shearers' quarters, but at the moment, like we're standing in the wood by the main road, so all you can hear are the cars go by.
I know the main road that goes to the west coast is quite close to us here, and about 300 or 400 metres up the road, there are the Castle Hill Rocks, which are very busy, aren't they? Lots of people stopping off there.
Especially over the last 2 weekends, being Easter and Anzac weekend. Everyone has come down to either have a look at the rocks, or if they're boulderers, which apparently is bouldering season, so all of these guys that you see with the big mattresses on their backs, they're going out to these rocks to try and climb them. There's been a few of those guys around as well.
Yes. So, Raymond, tell me what you are doing here on Castle Hill Station.
Okay, I'm a guest of the Upper Waimakariri catchment group, who are this network of, I guess, all the stations that are based around here. And I have been part of a pilot program that Creative New Zealand put together, really just to see what we could do with Pacific artists. This is a pilot program, so we have no idea what we're doing or where we're going, but I think the general idea was, let's put a Pacific artist, or in this case a Pacific artist that's done photojournalism, and see what they make of the environment that's way outside of their comfort zone. And I'll be honest, I'm a kid that's from South Auckland. I've spent most of my life around glass and concrete. Farms are like one of the last places I'd ever wanted to be when I was younger. Even in my older years, just because of bad experiences when I was younger. So it was a bit of apprehension that I took with me. Yeah.
You were showing me some of your photographs that you've taken here just before, and you've spent a lot of time with farmers out on the farms. What's that been like?
It has been, it's hard to explain, because it's one of those things that when I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I didn't want to put these guys out because these are working stations, and what they're doing is their livelihood, and whether they could accommodate, this artist, this photojournalist who's just a bit curious as to what's going on, left kind of like a space of unknown. But what's happened is I've learnt quite a bit in relation to how these stations in particular work, and I've come to understand, the diversity of ability that these farmers have, and their resilience, and the way that they can make these stations work in the environment that they're in, and with a mind for what's important, not just in relation to now, but future forward thinking around what's the legacy of these amazing places.
So tell me about the farmers here.
The key people here for me have been Anna Hill and Anne Hahn and their families at Castle Hill and Flock Hill Station. Anne's father first worked this station, Jos, and he's been an amazing person to talk to and learn some things off of as well. A real character, this amazing Dutchman who came over with a background in horticulture and then adjusted to be able to run a beef and lamb station. And even out when we've been out on musters with Anne and her husband Jason, Jos is there to try and help as well. You can't keep the man down.
Raymond, how have you incorporated your art practice into this kind of environment?
So my primary arts medium is photography, but before that I'm a Samoan, and as a Samoan there's a lot of cultural aspects that I build into my practice, and I found that having that ability to see from that Samoan perspective has given me another way to reframe what I'm looking at. But also there's a thing around what I've come to learn through family members, a practice of going into deep water thinking. The way I explain that is you can stay in your comfort zone, you can stay close to the coast, to things and to basically things that are familiar, or you can go out into the deep water and challenge yourself and trying to learn something more to broaden your own experiences, and this has been part of that deep water thinking. So as an artist, this gives me another perspective to add to what I consider, an artist who's Samoan, born here in Aotearoa, in New Zealand, raised on the idea of what it's like to be a Kiwi, but then being able to actually experience other Kiwi experiences outside of what I've understood in South Auckland, in major urban areas. This is, I think, anyone that gets the opportunity to come out and do this, or to come out and be around this area and to come to really even understand what the farming practices are about will only gain from that.
You actually do have links to the agricultural industry through your parents.
Yeah, so the history of our family is a lot of our family members have worked in the freezing works, so the meat industry. My mum worked at Westfield as a nurse, freezing works in Otahuhu, and I myself spent a season with AFCO in the Pelton High Processing Plant. And with our father, when he first came to New Zealand, he had a cadetship with Wrightson down in Southland, and eventually, before he had to stop working when he got sick, he was working with Wiri wool brokers. So there are elements of what my parents did there at the other end of the food chain, you could say, that I'm now seeing the front end of it, with the beef farms and the lamb that they do around here. But with primarily, I think these guys are wool with their sheep, so merino, and that's that brings me back to Dad. Yeah.
How special has it been being here and thinking about your dad?
It didn't hit me at first until I kind of got more of a sense, and it was more one of those things when they had the shearers come in to do the crutching, and I went to the wool sheds, and that smell, which is something that I remembered as a kid, because over where Dad was working in Wiri, they had his office, and then at the back was the massive warehouse and the wool sheds.
All the fadges full of wool.
And that smell, you can't forget it.
Yeah.
And when I walked into that shed, I was just like, oh, Dad. Yeah.
That's pretty special.
It was amazing. And I went looking for some of Dad's old photos as a result, just remembering, that was part of our life as well.
What do you plan to do with all the images that you've taken here?
I'm primarily going to build a story out of it. A lot of that, though, also will need to be filtered through the community that exists or that is part of the stations around here, because it's their story as well. So I will tell the story and show them it, and then if they need me to adjust, then I'll do the adjustments. The way that I tell stories is not as black and white as most journalism. Being a Samoan and being part of that Pacific culture, we are orators, and we do tend to put more of our emotions into what we're seeing and saying. So that story will be sort of tied to that. But I'm really hoping to take this back to our own communities. And one of the things that I thought about was, there's scope and scale in here for this experience to be given to some of our younger ones. Those who maybe doing something in the city is not something that they want to consider. And if we could find a way to get them to just maybe get some experience out here, work experience, and seeing, because this isn't something for everyone. But for those that do choose it, the rewards are massive. And I mean, part of the rewards is just being here.
So do you think that there might be some young adults in South Auckland, for example, who might be interested in agriculture?
I do think that is a possibility. And when I see some of the work that I'm seeing the farmers and the shepherds doing, I know there's that ability and that strength in a lot of the youth that we have that might gain something from this and find that maybe there's a life for them out this way as well.
So I guess the key is how can you unlock that door?
Exactly, yeah.
So which stations have you been to since you've been here?
So obviously Castle Hill is my first port of call. Flock Hill, Long Hill Station, Craigieburn, Mount White and Coralin. Each of those stations have given me different experiences. Each of them, there is a similarity in practice, but the execution is different. And I've been, really humbled to be able to watch what goes on. And I was surprised at the size of the stations, but the number of staff. It's like you think, oh, okay, you're looking at close to 60,000 hectares?
Yeah, Mount White Station's 70,000.
There's the station manager and 2 full-time shepherds, and then whoever they need whenever they need to call them in. But primarily those 3. It's the same with Craigieburn and that. But everything is structured in a way that because they're so networked, when someone's needed, they're there. And it's the thing I love about this, the comparison between communities here and communities where I'm from. If something's needed, the community is so tight that people are there.
And finding these comparisons really helps to bridge that urban-rural divide.
Yep. The key things for a lot of our Pacific families, or say Samoan families, are tied down to faith, alofa naing, or love and family. And those things reflect here as well. And also with the catchment group that I'm working with, they're looking at how do you preserve and protect. There are things that are happening within the environment. Climate change comes into it as well. That has an effect, obviously, but also farming practices and how do you move forward in a way that provides the best return for money on your farm, but also protects the land that you're actually looking after. And that's key to a lot of the ways the people that I've met have been thinking in their management process.
And the first day you got here, you even went to a catchment group meeting.
Yep. That's where I first had my introduction and I got to meet everyone. And that meeting, all the discussion that came from that was around land management, land protection. How do you mitigate some of the issues that have come from things like the big fires that they've had last year, the droughts, that come through. You can do as much as you can and nature will just turn it all on its head. So how do you become a resilient person in that sort of conversation? And these farmers, they're not only farmers, they're guardians. And they do love their animals. I've showed you some of the photos that we got from when they were doing the muster, and all the animals I saw were healthy. They're well cared for.
Beautiful looking animals. Their coats are shining, aren't they?
Very stroppy sometimes too, though. They don't like being told it's time to move on, you've had your holiday. But I've been really just blown away by the way they care for the other animals, like the dogs. They're such a vital part of farm life here.
I did notice you've taken quite a lot of pictures of working dogs.
Yep.
You've really captured their characters.
Oh, yeah.
Is there one image you've taken that stands out for you?
The shot I got of Brendan Smarty, on that muster when he's looking over the valley and across at the mountains. And like we just had that dump of snow high up. And in my mind, that's that, what an office.
So who is Brendan?
So Brendan's the shepherd over here on Castle Hill. He's Anne and Jason's right-hand man. He's been a good friend to me while I've been around here too. I nearly ran out of firewood a week or so ago, and he turned up in the Can-Am, fully loaded, ready for me to... So he's really looked after me. All of them have, all the shepherds have been incredible. People like Brendan, who's older, and then you've got guys over at Mount White like Harry and Bailey, who are quite young. But Harry's only 20, but he comes from farming background. So this is all he's ever known and all he wants to know, from what I understood. And I'm having this conversation with him as we're going out to muster deer, and then Poppy, who's the daughter of Sam, the station manager, pulls up in this massive tractor. She's off to drop silage, and everyone knows what they're doing on the farm, and I love to see it. It's very similar for us as Samoans, is that everybody has a role within the family unit on the land. Yeah.
Now, we will put a few of your photographs on Country Life's RNZ webpage, but will you be having an exhibition? How will people see the full body of work?
That's a discussion that I'll take up with Creative New Zealand, and that's sort of part of this pilot process, is to work out where we go from here. We've learnt a lot now. How do we get this out there?
What's next? What's after Castle Hill Station?
After Castle Hill Station, it's back home, getting myself sorted to teach again. Plus, I'm also a PhD candidate, so I've got to get back into getting my head around what that project is. And surprisingly, what I've done in here will probably inform that as well. With my PhD project, it was looking at photography from a Samoan perspective in the way I teach and learn, but basing it on Samoan practices tied to taro plantations. And there's a lot of bleed in from what I've learned here that kind of ties into that as well. Not literally as in plantations, but just the sense of learning and passing on knowledge. And it's passed on by doing.
South Auckland artist and photographer Raymond Sagapoutele talking to Cosmo at Castle Hill Station in Canterbury's High Country.
My name is Sarah Maxwell. I am a farmer from Fielding in the Manawatu, and you're listening to Country Life on RNZ National.
There's something different about this pumpkin patch near Whanganui. Beneath the sprawling vines, large pumpkins are being grown not for their orange flesh, but rather for their seeds. I met with sheep and beef farmers, Claire and Grant Atkins, to learn more. In a flat paddock in a koia near Whanganui, sheep and beef farmers Claire and Grant Atkins have a different crop growing. Pumpkins.
I'm Claire Atkins, and Grant and I have been farming here on the outskirts of Whanganui for about the last 15 years.
We farm about 2,000 ewes and some beef cattle as well. We're about 500 hectares effective. Mainly hill country with some flat. Obviously where the pumpkins are, we're flat.
We've diversified into pumpkins as just another income stream really, and producing a plant protein alongside our animal proteins.
This year's been a little bit drier than most, but we seem to be recovering from it reasonably well.
And we're standing out here in one of your flat paddocks full of pumpkins. Can you tell me a little bit about the variety of pumpkin you're growing here?
They're an Austrian type pumpkin, and they're hullless. The seed is a hullless seed, which is quite unusual. The variety is Camillo, and we import the seed especially for growing for pumpkin seed.
How many tonnes of pumpkins does that produce roughly?
Tonnes of seed. Last year we grew about 12 tonnes. This year's not looking as good. I think we might only get about half of that, but that's farming, the joys of farming. It's a bit unpredictable.
The Adkins took over the pumpkin growing business from another couple, Tom and Melissa Welsh, who we've previously had on the show at Country Life. Here's Tom back in 2019.
We were looking at what could compete with dairying economically, and we were thinking, well, hang on a minute, let's explore New Zealand grown pumpkin seeds, and we couldn't find any New Zealand grown pumpkin seeds.
The Adkins bought the plant and gear and began producing their own pumpkin seeds, flour and oil under the brand Summer Hill Seeds. Why pumpkins, you ask?
We thought it might be a semi-retirement project. If our son comes home and wants to take on the sheep and beef side of things, we could help him out on on some days and have the pumpkins as our income, but it was just the opportunity arose. We'd been looking at different things pretty much all our farming lives, really. This just came about because we knew the Welshes and Martin who were selling the business. Yeah, it felt right, so we just jumped in.
Until all these leaves break down and things like that, we can't really see much.
The pumpkins are quite hidden. You guys are expert at spotting them as we walked into the paddock. And they're quite different looking from your usual pumpkins you might find in the supermarket. They've got that lovely dark green, little bit of orange colouring as well. They're shaped a little bit more, almost like a basketball kind of size is how I'd describe them.
Quite soccer ballish and very much a Halloween looking pumpkin. There's one over there that's got lovely green flecks on the yellow, but then there's one over here that's a real sunshine orange. They start out green like a courgette and then gradually go the lovely golden shades as they ripen.
Do you mind cutting into one, showing us what it's like on the inside?
We can find a
good candidate.
one.
How can you tell if they're ripe? Is it?
Well, I think there's more brighter orangey yellow and closer to being ripe. And really, you can hear that. There's really hard skin. So I've just got to be a little bit careful I don't cut myself.
They're called a naked pumpkin because unlike the ones that you buy in the supermarket where the seeds are surrounded by that white husk, these ones are naked within the pumpkin. But instead of having the white husk that is their protection, these ones have just got a super hard shell, which is their main source of protection.
And a good farmer is never without a knife on his belt. Comes in handy, I suppose.
So they take a bit of fighting to get into. So you can see these seeds are starting to turn green. When they're not ripe, the seed is quite white and they're starting to green up now. So that's a good sized seed. Yeah, it's nice and plump. It'll shrivel up a bit when we dry it.
And so there's not as much flesh as well around it. And
the flesh is very watery and gets quite stringy when they're mature. It just tastes like an unripe pumpkin. It's not something you actually want to eat. The pumpkin flesh and shell get discarded out the back of our harvesting machine, so they go straight back into the soil and melt down really quickly, so they're compost. We could get stock and to eat them, but we prefer not to put stock onto a paddock that's growing a crop for human consumption.
Good to see these are starting to go green, so we're probably only a few weeks off harvest.
Taste-wise, it's almost like walnut.
It is. It's got that real nutty, especially as they get riper. They've got a very nutty flavour. I think you can say it tastes a little bit of sort of pea
as well.
Something.
Yeah, I'm getting that.
There, and that's that unripeness yet still.
No, but that's lovely. I can imagine when that's fully ready to go.
They're a good meal.
Gorgeous.
Yep.
To grow the pumpkins, the paddock is cultivated, with additional hoeing later on to remove the weeds. Though not organic, the pumpkins grow spray-free. Once the leaves die off, it's time to harvest.
The vine goes for miles. Each plant is
they just spread out, don't they?
Yeah.
Really?
We only get to do the hand hoeing in December because literally only got a few weeks between germination and when they start tillering out and holding hands across the rows, and then you just have to walk away. There's nothing more you can do.
Which is good.
That's what you want, especially when you've got other parts of the business and farm you're busy with.
So the outside row planted comes down here where my foot is, and you can see how far they've spread across to the fence. It's probably a good 3-4 metres.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And then so they're doing each direction.
All directions.
Yeah.
Kind of radial almost, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So there's quite a bit of trash on the ground when it comes to harvesting, as well as getting to that. It is quite fibrous, and the leaves will die down. There've been these amazing big solar panels over the summer to put the goodness down into the fruit. They die with a back. The vine becomes very fibrous and dried as well. And then we come in with a tractor with basically a back blade that rows the pumpkins up into rows. Grant, or another very useful local, comes in with the tractor and the harvester, drives over the top of those rows. They basically go around a great big drum with spikes on it, which pick up the pumpkins and load it into the harvester, which has a series of augers and knives that chop the pumpkins up into sort of roast-sized pieces, so to speak. And then going past one of the augers, the seeds and small bits of flesh get pushed down through and separated from the big chunks. And so then we only take those seeds out of the paddock, and the chunks, as we've said, go out back into
Chucked
the paddock.
out the back.
Yeah.
Well, shall we head back to the house to go and see what happens with these pumpkins and how you
Sure.
process the seeds?
Absolutely.
Good idea.
Absolutely.
From the paddock, it's back to the main farm, where the seeds get processed, graded, and the lesser quality seeds turned into flour and oil.
Well, this is our pumpkin shed. Get these doors open so we can actually see what we're doing. There we are. Little light.
Wow. So what goes on in here?
Well, the shed's had several lives already, really. When we moved here, we built it new. It's been an implement shed, it's been a calf rearing shed. We really primped it up for the pumpkins. We laid the concrete floor and fully lined it, bird-proofed it, yeah. Bought the machinery from Cannock Harvests with an addition of one new piece. So we've got turn of the 20th century machinery sitting right alongside 21st century machinery, and they both do an awesome job.
Exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing lots of hills. What am I looking at there?
So that's seed from last year's harvest. So they're all fadges of seed, so they've all been dried and
Oh, we can see some over here, I think.
dried and stored. There's just going to open up a badge there. So they're all stored in half-ton bags.
Oh gosh, look at them.
So that's what comes out of the harvester after it's been dried. Well, it's what it comes out like after it's been dried. So you can see bits of skin still there.
I suppose it gets a bit filtered and sorted, or...
Yep. So the machine behind us here, the seed cleaner, that'll take out all the seed, all the skin, and all these, fluffy bits and little wee bits of cracked seed and splintered and things like that.
While Grant's busy setting up, Claire talks me through the nutritional benefits of pumpkin seeds.
Pumpkin seed flour is gluten-free, which is a real bonus, and it's got a really high protein value. Ours is tested at 52% protein, so really great for vegan, vegetarian eating. It does keep its colour, so it's a light green. I think that's positive because green's a healthy colour, and it's got a little bit of texture and a little bit of flavour. We get to the flour by pressing the seeds for the oil, so you have to get rid of the oil in order to get the flour. Those operations are done off-farm. We contract someone to do that for us, and the oil is glorious. It's a gorgeous green colour. When you see it en masse, it looks red.
Yeah.
Right. And you can see it looks really red, but when you pour it out...
To the side, it has got that green. Yeah.
It's a gorgeous green. It's a low smoke point oil, so like olive oil, you don't heat it in a wok or a pan on its own. But if I'm doing stir-fry vegetables, I put the veggies in first, drizzle the oil over the top, and then stir-fry them. We do about a tablespoon every morning in a smoothie for breakfast. It's a really healthy oil, great for skin and hair, and there are definitely health benefits as well as just being a really nice tasting oil. And you can use it in any way that you'd use olive oil.
The sorting process is key to ensuring they get the best ingredients for each product. The highest quality seeds are cleaned up and sold as is, while the lesser quality seeds are crushed and turned into flour off-site, with the oil also sold as a product.
So what happens is, start from the beginning, the seeds come back from the paddock in those green plastic
like
troughs that you can see out there, and they get soaked overnight, and then they get put through a washing machine, which is outside. It's just a sort of a centrifugal thing. So then the seeds come in and get put on the dryer. Come have a look at our dryer.
Pop round. So just a drying belt, or not belt, but just kind of frame, I suppose.
Yeah,
best way to explain it.
About a 7 metre long, 1.2 metre wide, big rectangular box with perforated sheet steel mesh set at about 1 metre high, and we pour the seeds onto this. So this whole great big long table will be covered with about 6 inches deep of seed. The sort of like green little slippery wetsuits at that stage. And we have a big gas burner outside, which has got 3 gas bottles attached to it, and then a fan. So the air is blown in underneath the perforated sheets, and then the hot air rises and goes through the seeds. So it takes about 14 hours to dry the seeds down as much as they need to be. And to date, we've been turning that by hand, which is a good muscle building job.
I can imagine 6 inches deep, that's pretty thick.
Yeah. I'm ready for arm wrestling by the end of the season. So that drying takes place this year. With any luck, we've got this homemade, again, purchased, made by us. Looks a bit like a Meccano version of a combine harvester, pretty much. It is electrified and will just roll its way down, tossing the seed or blending the seed as it goes backwards and forwards, and it will trip itself at the far end and work its way back. So we haven't tested it yet, and I'm really looking forward to it being a huge success and cutting down my muscle building activities.
And just moving to the back of the shed, actually, I've just noticed that you get this lovely smell. I presume from the pumpkin seeds you can smell that oil coming through, which is so lovely.
Yes. The bags that are ungraded, there's sort of quite a sweet sort of hay, if you stick your nose in there, quite a hay, sort of meadowy. It's really aromatic and quite a nice warm sunshiny sort of smell. So once we've taken the seeds off the dryer, we then put them through this beautiful antique seed cleaner, which is basically 3 different screens that we've got set up to sort the seed into A grade, B grade, C grade, and then off the back comes the tiny little weightless almost bits of skin and pumpkin skin. So we can set that going for you if you like and show you how it works. We have various people here from time to time, just looking around and all that. And this one guy came to us and said, "Oh, I actually know this machine personally." And he said, "I used to own it." And he gave us the full history of it. It was made in Christchurch, was used when seed growing was a major, farming enterprise down there. All the small seeds.
Flaxseed.
So then, all the small seeds. But then this machine got used in Shannon and Levin for the flaxseed operation. So it started out at Foxton with flax, and then it went to Massey because they were doing research into different seeds and all the rest. And this guy that we met had taken seeds to Massey to be cleaned and dressed, and when they sort of no longer had a use for it, they said to him, "Would you like to purchase it?" So he did. He then sold it on to the Welshes, and now it's come to us.
Oh, wow.
So she's a grand old lady. It sort of looks like a 2-story piano. And
it does,
got
actually.
This lovely, beautiful mechanical action. It's electric powered now, but I'm sure it was probably driven by a stationary steam engine originally. It's all wood, and all it requires is a bit of grease, which is amazing.
Now we're loading up some seed to be sorted or to be put through this grand old lady. Oh, there it goes.
So that rattling sound you can hear is the seed coming down through
The various
layers, and now you can see it starting to come out the front.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm a bit short, but
And so this is the A grade seed coming out here on the right hand side. Smaller seed coming out on the left, not as much, and then round the corner here. It's got little chips, little bits of seed. And then the next thing is very thin seed and skin, and little cracks and things like that that aren't really much good for anything. It's too thin to even get oil out of or anything else, so that'll just go as stock food. chooks, whoever wants to eat it really.
Sure.
And then, as you can see, there's also a white
Little fluff.
fluff that's getting pulled out by the vacuum on it. And that's just off the, like a very fine skin over the seed.
A dried kind of flake
It's
almost.
just dry and it just flakes off. Yeah. So,
And then in this one as well, all of the fleshy dried bits get
so the bigger pieces of pumpkin skin come off this top layer. All these bits and pieces here that don't look quite so flash. There's a broken seed there and a chunk out of that one. So next thing is we'll put it through the colour sorter, and that'll take out all those
other
bits and pieces.
impurities.
Yeah.
After being sorted in the grand old lady, the seeds go through a further analysis in the more modern colour grading machine.
So what would happen is our A-grade seed will go from that to here to be sorted ready for sale of the A-grade, and what comes out is the B-grade seed. That we then have got a second program that we put into the machine, and it can do a second sorting, which will give us a baker's grade seed that we are happy to sell to bread makers or anyone that wants to use seed that have got just a little bit of yellow, some of the green skin has come off, or just a second grade seed. And then that still leaves a third grade seed that we will get pressed into oil and then ground into flour.
And so this is a bit of new kit for you guys?
Yes, yeah. So we've moved from the 20th century piece of machinery onto the 21st century piece. It's a colour sorter, so God knows how computers work, but basically we have taken photos of what we consider to be good green seed, and then photos of seed that have got yellow, which is basically a skin layer has come off, or chip seeds, and come forward here you can see as the seeds come down this chute that looks a bit like the end of a hydro dam, really, doesn't it?
It does actually, yeah.
Or a waterfall type thing. The seeds pass over those little grills, and somewhere in there is a camera that's taking simultaneously photos of both sides of each pumpkin seed and
Telling
making a
which place
decision
to go.
as to whether they're good or bad seeds. And so, yeah, it blows my tiny mind, but it's very cool and is hugely labour saving. We've only had it 3 weeks, but it's done in less than 3 days, what normally takes me and a helper a month to do. And show you how it works. Go up and tell you.
So Claire's just climbing up the ladder, pouring it into the bins at the top, and then round the corner here you'll see up the top these little stainless steel trays here are actually vibrating. The seed just comes off in a single layer, and that popping you can hear is the compressed air shooting out the second seed. So all the good seed goes straight down to the bin, and all the seconds get diverted into a separate bag.
Sort of B-grade seed that we're separating into 2 batches, there's more popping than if we were separating out the A-grade from the B-grade, because obviously the proportions are
different.
Yep. Because we can do it so quickly, it's worth it to get out another good grade of seed that A, we can sell, and B, people can eat, and then the rest goes into the oil and flour.
That was Claire and Grant Atkins I was speaking to at their farm near Whanganui. They're busy at the moment bringing in the latest bunch of pumpkins for Summerhill seeds. We have some goodies to give away too. Some of their pumpkin seeds, flour and oil are up for grabs for keen listeners. Just tell us the name of the pumpkin species they're growing to go into the draw. You can email us your answers, country@rnz.co.nz. And as always, you can find more, including photos and a link to the previous Country Life interview with the Welsh family, on our webpage, rnz.co.nz/countrylife, or check the show notes.
And that's this week's Country Life. Thanks for joining us. You can also find photos and more information about the stories in this episode in our show notes. Now, we do love getting your feedback and ideas for future stories. You can reach us at country@rnz.co.nz.
We'd hate for you to miss an episode of Country Life. To get every episode free to your phone, click follow on your app now. And if you enjoyed our show, give us a shout on social media or tell a friend by clicking the share button in this app.
Out in the field today were Janina Schwannecker, Cosmo Kentish Barnes and Sally Round.
The show was produced and engineered by David Knowles and Phil Benj. Ka kite.
Catch you next time.